is inflammation after all? We hear so much about this idea, but we never really fully comprehend it. You see, a very easy way for us to comprehend this concept is that whenever a criminal damages something or someone, a mugshot is taken off his or her face after they are captured. So, next time, whenever we encounter that face, law enforcement attacks him or her and quite often unintentionally ends up damaging some things or some people. Are you getting it? When a food damages our body, an antibody, a mugshot, is created of its protein, its recognizable part. Gluten, lactose. Are you getting it? So whenever we consume that protein, our immune system attacks it, unintentionally creating some inflammation. So inflammation is the internal battle that thankfully exists. We want inflammation to occur just the same way we want law enforcement to attack criminals, but unintentionally there is some internal damage. So the same way you here, even though you like law enforcement and its job, you want to actually remove the criminals from society. Here you want to remove the people, the foods I mean, that are actually making the immune system, our law enforcement, to have the need to attack. It's as simple as that. And now we are getting to the idea of, but why are so many people intolerant or sensitive to gluten and lactose nowadays? A while back that didn't occur. The protein didn't change. Gluten was as gluten as it is today. Lactose was as lactose as it is today. But because grains used to be just unnutritious food, but not necessarily damaging, as the only bad components they had was antibodies and anti-nutrients, I mean, you were robbed of the absorption of some nutrients, but there was no actual damaging of your internal body, which completely contrasts with nowadays, that when you consume a grain, because glyphosate free grains are absolutely rare, you most likely are consuming Roundup spray with your grains. So you might be consuming some rice and you think, oh, some whatever, according to history, to his story, plenty of millennia of these people were consuming a lot of rice, a lot of bread, and they were empires. But they consumed it, if they did, without Roundup spray. It's a completely different story. And so because you consume this with the Roundup spray, your body gets damaged and it creates this mugshot, this antibody, not of the Roundup spray, but of the protein of the food. Just like a criminal is gonna damage somebody with their fist or with a knife, for example, here bread, for example, is damaging you through the Roundup spray. But what law enforcement recognizes is the face of the criminal. In this case, is the protein of that food, is not the glyphosate. It's as simple as this. I know you are getting the idea. And for lactose, for example, is the exact same thing. Lactose is the sugar in milk. And we can get all these other intolerances or sensitivity that people have nowadays towards different sort of proteins. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that protein. But a while back, people, when they did consume dairy, it was dairy from healthy animals that were fed natural diets. Nowadays, we are consuming dairy, all these processed forms of dairy, including milk, which you don't get in most supermarkets, unprocessed, is actually produced by cows with horrible condition. These so-called downer cows that are so consumed that they even stop having energy in their knees and they drop down on all fours, becoming downer cows. By the way, most fast food restaurants, even the ones that use 100% beef, they use downer cows. So you are consuming 100% beef, but from an animal that had horrible life conditions. If you want to humanely end the life, you go out in nature and with any sort of harm or fire harm or whatever, you do it as instantly as possible, just like a lion will grab an animal by its back, then whenever he gets the chance he bites this part, and after 5 minutes, not more than that, the animal is gone. So you created unintentionally some suffering which you didn't even want to, but after 5 minutes it's gone. And that's it. There is no problem with gluten. Gluten has nothing bad. It's a protein. Lactose has nothing bad. It's a protein. Proteins have nothing bad within them. But just like it happens in the real world, it happens within our body. And that's it. That's the only thing you need to remember. And also, as a bonus, of course, proteins or products or produce that are healthy for animals, some of them are not healthy for other animals. All herbivores have pleasure consuming raw plants and seeds. All carnivores will find raw plants and seeds bitter. So you cannot imagine that your ideal diet is raw plants and seeds, because you naturally don't like them. You don't naturally incline to go up to a tree and munch on some leaves or the bark or the roots. That's not instinctive in humans nor other carnivores. We do feel an instinctive drive to go up to fruits, which is not a plant, even though you can call it plant-based because it's from the plant realm, and up to honey. And that's it. So if you need to cook or to season or to sauce a food in order to find it pleasurable, then you're not eating your species appropriate diet. A lion is not salting his food for sure. So the lion diet is not a lion's diet, even though the name is catchy. Plant-based is the most popular diet in the world, and we don't even realize. Most people have a plate of 3/3. One is something like rice, potatoes, maybe some pasta. Another is some salad or some vegetables or even some fruit. And the third one is meat or fish or eggs. This is the food of the vast majority of the population, some doing a more bigger meat portion, others doing a even smaller. One of the most, if not the most, unhealthy nation on the world is India. What is India nutrition? Indians are primarily vegetarians slash vegans. When you consume a vegan diet, as a human, as a carnivore, you cannot expect a good outcome. Gandhi was said to beat his wife. Why? Because he was biochemically messed up. I and any other human, when biochemically messed up, we feel the need to destroy, because our inner conflict expresses as outer conflict. The only way to human peace is to go carnivore. Sure, I totally agree, and I was vegan once for a while, that we should do as humane kills as possible. Death does not equal suffering, but suffering equals suffering. Pain, when you cause someone, or even if either if it's a human or another type of animal, we're all animals, if you're causing it pain, you're causing it suffering. But if you're killing it, it doesn't feel. Please don't come up with all these different theories about soul or whatever. These are all imaginary. We might be able to maybe prove them somehow, but for now, let's stick to our senses. Maybe there are more than 5 senses, but if you can smell it, or touch it, or taste it, or see it, you know it exists, you know it's the truth. If you have to come up with this imagination, something that your senses cannot grasp, then how can you say it's real? If you grab a robot with a camera, with a microphone, with a smell, with a detect sensor, and it cannot verify something, how can you say it exists? You can't. It's of your imagination. Mother Mary might have existed, might exist, but unless you have seen her in front of you, or smelled her, or heard her, and I'm not talking about schizophrenia, in which you do hear those things, you cannot say it exists. You can only say, I believe it so to be. I can say meat delivers me good health because when I do consume meat, not only I, but other people that look at me say, oh, you are looking healthier. I cannot say that dairy, like pasteurized boiled dairy, is completely fine, because even if I somewhat convince myself, other people around me or a robot with a camera can clearly see that there are signs, evidence of it causing some problems. So anytime we are discussing the truth, coming up with ideas, coming up with indications like, oh, there is all these books that write about the life of Jesus. There are all these books writing about veganism being good for humans. It doesn't matter. I can write a book about eating chairs being good for humans. Just because it's wrote, and because it's wrote and sells many copies, doesn't make it a reality. Only when I do test it and see the outcome do I prove it. Proof is within evidence. Evidence is either smelled, seen, heard. You get what I'm going. Thanks for watching.